Welcome everyone. I am here today with Gemma Thomas and Jenn Thomson, which are two different people, as you will see yourself, because there will be two different people talking. But we are here today with Gemma, who is our GUE's Recreational Program Director, so taking care about the program itself and educating instructors. And then we have Jenn, who just did her final IE as a recreational/open water instructor. And she did her final examination with real students, which means she really taught a full open water class. And what we would like to talk today about is what did Gemma learn from that process and what did Jennifer did not expect, maybe this way, just to see from her perspective what the process looks like. And the inspiration for kind of forcing Jennifer to do an IE with real students was one of the past instructors that we had, who told me once that even though he interned a few times on open water classes, the moment that he took somebody actually underwater for the first time, he thought, I can kill that person if I'm not really doing my job well. So today we would like to discuss what's the benefit of actually preparing our open water instructors so well that they will be confident and competent teaching new divers and taking them for the first time underwater.
Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Gemma and this is Jenn, and as you can see we are two different people. And I am the Program Director for Recreational Diving, and Jenn has just qualified as a open water instructor.
Yes.
And we're here to talk about the process and basically what we've learnt through this journey over the last couple of years of training Jenn up to teach open water, and how we as an agency can better prepare our instructors to actively get out there and teach new divers. So, from the last couple of weeks where you were doing your instructor exam, what was your biggest takeaway?
I guess the first thing that I noticed is that, you know, I worked very hard for the past, I guess, 2 years for this moment, and no matter how much one can prepare, you have to very much adapt because nothing ever goes to your plan on an actual IE, especially dealing with real students. So I taught my IE with 2 open water students, and no matter how many ITCs or classes I looked at very few open water, I looked at 1. And so the difference between teaching and observing students who basically knew what they were doing but needed their skills refining, to actually sitting with 2 students and you had to teach them from the very off, was definitely an experience which I learned so much from.
And what was the thing on day 1 that took you by surprise from working with 2 new divers?
I guess 2 things, maybe you can tell a bit as well, but one thing I didn't expect from the students and one thing that I didn't expect from myself. So from the students' perspective, I was very taken aback at the level of, I guess, uncertainty and panic that the students had from day 1. So for context, I had 2 students. One of them was an ex-national swimmer, and so I had begun to think about what that student might have to work on, and I was mostly thinking of propulsion and body tension and things, but I wasn't expecting that feeling of being submerged underwater to be that overwhelming. And so having to deal with students' first time panic in the water was definitely something new for me as well. And then from myself, it was understanding that how much information those students can retain is a lot different to, for example, fundamentals. I think you stopped me halfway through the day saying I need to be way more efficient.
So I think when we do the ITCs and we're teaching people to do field drills, for example, we spend a lot of time and we get people comfortable with the skills on dry land, and then later we will go and do them in the water, which when people know what is expected of them is fine. When it comes to open water, the retention period quite short. And there's definitely, I don't say anxiety, but maybe excitement to actually get out there and to give it a go.
And try,
And so a lot of the time when I've been teaching open water, you're kind of standing in shallow water saying this is how you breathe from a regulator, let's try it. 30 seconds later they try it, they're comfortable with breathing from it. then you brief the next skill, as opposed to briefing everything that they want to do
Yes.
in that dive, and then a little bit overwhelming, they don't remember anything, and you end up having to rebrief it.
Yes.
In
No, I definitely did, yeah. And that first day was quite long because of that. I basically had to reteach everything because they could not remember and had to ask questions again. Whereas then when we discussed that on the days after, both Gemma and the students said that they felt a lot more comfortable during those dives because, in their words, we chatted about the skill, we practiced on the surface, we went down. We practiced, we chatted, and it was a lot more bite-sized chunks for them to manage and not be overwhelmed as well, for sure.
which makes it a little bit more enjoyable, and they don't have time for that anxiety to kind of start building up in their head, particularly if there's a fear of water as well.
I remember one thing about mask skills. So again, I was always told, for example, in the ITC, to have really good, slow demonstration quality skills. And I thought I was pretty good at that.
I mean, it's a great demonstration, it's super slow.
Yes.
But
it's one thing, so the students were almost taken aback at how slow I was doing certain skills, and then their perception was, but I feel uncomfortable taking my mask off for that length of time. So I was, for context, making it very clear that I was fine breathing without a mask, this is the right orientation, but then to the students, it was a bit too overwhelming and a bit much at first, which then we had to then try and unlearn that panic in the latter few days as well.
And I think one of the things that we don't necessarily cover in the ITC is a lot of the psychology of teaching diving and how to deal with students who are panicking.
Yes,
And how ultimately what we can do as instructors either makes that panic worse or better.
Yeah.
And it's little things that we don't necessarily think of, particularly when we're used to working with more experienced divers, that can be detrimental to an open water student.
No, for sure. And I remember then we were talking about the no mask swim, and we basically said that in this dive we will work up to that very incrementally. And I remember that day actually being really proud, because that day the student went from not being able to have their face in the water without a mask to doing 2 no mask swims and replacements because they didn't like their backup. And so, but yes, that was very good, but I could have prevented that by, maybe making my demonstrations a bit more tailored to what their level of, capacity was at the time, for sure.
So what else took you by surprise? I would refer to it as the first few aquatic sessions are chaotic.
Oh, it was very chaotic. It was very chaotic.
So how was it chaotic?
I guess for starters, again, so in an ITC or in the fundamentals, you tell a student to go over there, and they go over there. And here they go everywhere but over there. And I guess it's learning. I remember you said this, I have to learn to not be in control all the time, because they have to have that experience to understand what it feels like to go up. And this is why we did the aquatic session 3 in basically 1 to 2 meters of water. And so they had that knowledge that if they do go up, they will hit the surface, but that's okay because they understand that feeling of what it's like to be too positive and how to combat that. If we start doing it for them, then they get into that mindset of somebody will always be there to help me. But that first session, you really had to let them play. And it was even the case of you saying, stop back kicking all the time, let them go and play.
Why?
Exactly, because then they felt almost too scared to do that kick as efficiently as possible because they didn't want to bump into me. Exactly, yeah. So it was about having that freedom to let them go, and I was at the side, and so able to communicate then as well. I was also, I think, during that session, I was forgetting how little signs they knew underwater. So when we tried to turn, they were looking at me like, what are you saying? Because, again, everything we briefed, I didn't explicitly say, this is how I will get you to turn around, or different ways as well.
And whilst learning to teach, I guess, you would be looking at divers in the water and be like, why are you doing that? And then you realise that it was a consistent thing, and it's because this is what you briefed somebody.
Yes.
So the little details are what
exactly
makes life easier. easier or harder
Yeah,
things for you? How about controlling them in the water?
For sure. So,
Bearing in mind that as much as we teach them how to back kick on the surface,
yeah.
they can kind of back kick, but when
Yeah.
they're thinking about skills, it's not going to happen.
No, for sure. I guess one of the big things was really honing in on fist bumping the entire time as well, or from the off, and really getting them to lean on each other and myself. One of them was a bigger individual than me, so I had to be very aware of if I needed to fist bump, I actually needed to stay in my position as well. But also it was about knowing that they will never be in 100% control the entire time. You know, because I remember one time you were like, just start doing the skill, because I was very much focused on getting them as comfortable as I can, but actually they had semi-decent control, and that was good enough for them to start, because that control also comes over time as well.
They're never going to be perfect from the first time you take them in the water.
Yeah, for sure.
If they've got a level of control,
Yeah.
comfort, they can see what you're doing. Okay, maybe they're not perfectly in trim. Then we can progress, and then, as you say, it comes with time. So, what is good enough?
Yeah.
At what point during the course?
And I think that a really good example of that was when we were practicing the helicopter turns again, because, you know, we hadn't practiced that underwater, and so we were going along, and then you said, okay, it's perfectly natural for them to, when turning, they go vertical and then continue. But actually, they started to build up that muscle memory. So when we did introduce the helicopter, they were really good. They were really good, and they started to do it almost naturally, which was really nice.
One of the other big differences between fundamentals and open water is the experience dives that come with the open water. So what did you learn from those 6 dives that we have?
I think it was, again, a really good way to gauge confidence, but also understanding when the students will panic as well, especially being in that new environment. But also knowing that it's their time to enjoy, and they will learn to correct themselves over time. So, you know, not jumping in to correct every single thing, but also about allowing them to have that time. So, you know, allowing them to go, exactly, and allowing them to go down to their minimum gas as well, and really making the most of that time as well. Just so they have the confidence to know that they can stay down, you know, with...
But it's perfectly fine to go to 40 bar.
Exactly.
So we've done the calculations, and now we need to prove that what we learned theoretically is also what they can do in real life.
And I think as well, the student that was panicking, again, with the theory, it was very complimentary. And so in the last few days, she really understood about panicking and what to do as a team and how to stay calm. And I think seeing that in the theory, but also applying that underwater as well in those experience dives really helped.
I think the other thing that took you by surprise as well was equalising.
I was about to say equalising, yep. Oh my goodness, yes, because I hardly have any problems with my ears, and so really understanding that individuals equalise in different ways. So we had one that could just, you know, pinch their nose and it was fine, and we had one person that had to swallow, and ears did not work at all. And it was very interesting to see her, what's the word, I guess, uncertainty around equalising and how to do it, and becoming quite almost scared of that process. But I think as an instructor, what I need to do early on is be more proactive in getting her to equalise very soon, or getting her in a good enough position to equalise, rather than being so reactive. So I guess what I mean by that is on some of the first descents, really emphasising we're going to stop at 2 meters, or if we're doing it even less than exactly a 1 meter, or making sure they have their head up, and remembering to, you know, add gas as they're going down, rather than the first few times I was correcting it when she had an issue because she was descending a bit too fast, rather than correcting the descent so the equalisation would be better as well.
And it's a subtle difference.
Yeah, it's very subtle, and I think that's something I didn't grasp until about halfway through, and so then it was a lot easier to think about those aspects, and then the equalisation got better as well over time.
And what was the most chaotic point of the entire course, from your point of view?
I mean, I guess one of the first descents, I guess.
I was going to say it was the
It was
first.
the first descent, obviously. It was the first descent because, you know, you brief the time and you spend time getting the students comfortable. Also, I love doing the aquatic session 1 and 2, not on land, but directly in water as soon as possible, because then they really feel that trim position and body tension from the off in the water. And so you can chat and be comfortable and then talk about that, but nothing prepares you for when they first go in the water, because yes, they go everywhere but where they need to be, for sure. But it's about embracing that, I think, as well, and understanding what those students will do and picking up the little tricks that open water students or new students will do over time, so you become more prepared for it.
Yeah, and I think it's something that we don't necessarily discuss when training instructors is how to handle that first descent.
Yes,
So something for sure that we will look into.
For sure. And I think as well, maybe with differing amounts of students, because again, I've seen one open water. I know we tried to do one in Singapore a few years ago, but my last open water I saw it was with 1-to-1. And so you have a level of control which is a lot easier, but when you have 2 students and they go separate ways, it's a bit more trickier.
Especially when you've got 3.
Yeah, not yet. I need to definitely build up experience for that, for sure. But yeah, I think that's one of the things that we don't discuss, as in that general positioning or classroom orientation, which is different from fundamentals to open water, because there is no time to lay a line or do anything like that. So we had an SMB line, we had something for them to hold on to. So for that first few times, they are really able to understand what it's like to add gas and dump gas without floating away. And then they were able to feel more confident to take their hands off. But you basically, have to guide the students, and that's it. And so that was really useful to see as well. And so classroom positioning in the ITC is super useful. And it's good to know those skills, but just understand with open water, it might be different. And the same with basic 5, when we did 1, 2 and 4, there was no time for me to keep changing positions, and they got a bit stressed if I was moving all the time. So we did a lot of skills in our cross formation as well. But again, that's when the briefing on the surface really helped. So the students could split up those dives into bite-sized chunks as well.
And what you do on the surface is exactly what you do.
Exactly, and take it with you, for sure. And I think the same thing as well with splitting up was a good one in doing the SMB deployment, because then they were really able to take ownership of those roles, and it was really nice to see. Again, this is a nice thing to see with 2 open water students, because they ended up correcting each other, they were chatting with each other, they were being each other's, and they were really good at supporting and communicating the entire time, which was really good. And actually checking gas, they were really good at doing that with most dives, which was nice to see. But then on the SMB deployments, they could then practice a lot of ascents, but then they took ownership of the skills, the roles in which they were doing. So one of them was the deco captain, and one of them was using the SMB as well, which was nice. It's always good to do. Yeah. I guess speaking of skills, one thing I found beneficial, because I was there on an ITC just beforehand, and we did a session on the open water / Rec 1 specific skills, and it's very interesting to see how uncertain some of the candidates were on the procedures and how to conduct these open water skills. And so I feel like moving forward that needs to be implemented a lot more, and they're super fun as well to do. And but again, it is a lot different, and even though I knew very well the procedures and how to demonstrate all these skills, it's very much different underwater. So I had a student who didn't orally inflated too much, and so started to ascend quite rapidly. And so it was interesting to see how, again, you can demonstrate all these skills, but it's a bit different with these students, which is where experience from teaching open water comes in.
And I think it just means that when we're doing instructor training specifically for people who want to teach open water, to focus more on actual open water classes, and making preparing people for the chaos
Yes.
that comes with it, as
Yeah.
opposed to
Being overwhelmed by the chaos.
yes,
Yes.
because the first time you see it, you're like,
Oh yeah.
it's perfectly normal.
Yeah.
They will stabilize. It's all good.
Yeah.
But when you're used to teaching people who are stable, then it's not too fair on the instructors that are coming in. So having them actively work with newer divers
Yeah.
is going to be beneficial for everybody. It's going to
Yeah.
give them the confidence for when they go out on their own to teach new people.
Yeah. Yeah, because that first descent and seeing everything, I was a bit like overwhelmed, I would say, as well.
Yeah.
And you could see because my SCR shot right up. And so that's actually another thing, because I have a very good SCR rate.
Very low.
Very low, very low. But when teaching, it is higher.
Surprisingly.
Surprisingly higher.
But another
again-
thing to be aware of when you're teaching, right,
Yeah.
is your consumption rate does
Yeah.
go up. So you must
Yeah.
take that into account.
Yeah, no, for sure, it really does.
So are you looking forward to going out and continuing to teach more open
Oh
water
my
people?
goodness, yes. I mean, I was so proud of the progress that they made, and just even seeing on those final dives, the amount of stability they had, and or the level of their like mental progression as well, to being actually confident as a team and not being reliant on me, even right down to they were fixing some of their gear on the boat themselves, and they were comforting each other, they were making sure everyone was okay, and so it was
They were
super
panicking.
rewarding to see that, and it felt really proud to actually be a part of that as well, and to see that you can be like really good and confident even for the first 6 dives.
After
And
6
I really wish I had that during my past experience in open water. So I just want to be able to give that information to everyone. Yes, but also like tell people that's okay to struggle and okay to find it hard, because it makes, I guess, GUE as an agency seem a lot more personable and approachable if they know, look, this person has worked hard, they were here and now they're here, so I can do that as well. And it's about giving people and new divers the confidence to go with this training. We just need to communicate better the benefits of this training, but also show people and empower people that you can do it as well.
Yes.
For sure. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, and I can't wait.
I think we're all looking forward to seeing where you go
Oh yes,
as well.
for sure.
I guess one of the first people to teach a real open water class as part of your instructor exam. How did you find it teaching when basically I'm there watching over it?
I was very grateful you were there. No, honestly, I found it so useful, and the knowledge I gained from it was basically like a crash course in how I would go out and teach later on. So I guess it prepared me for the future as well as now. I guess it was really beneficial to have you there, I guess, as not taking over, but as a steering mechanism to say, speed up here or do this. And then when we had the briefings later on, for you to actually tell me, okay, actually, we need you to do briefings in this way. And so actually you helped guide the process of the open water in a really beneficial way, both for the students and myself. And it was also, I think it was almost like a 4-way conversation. So I really appreciated when you would maybe jump in and add something, not because what I said was wrong, but just to add in a bit more information or your experience, both as you know, in the dive sites or environments that you teach in, because the students want to go and travel in areas where you are familiar with, but also for me as well, and I found that super beneficial. And as well, like, you're teaching completely new divers, and of course, regardless of how bad a mock student can be, nothing will ever take away from doing the real thing.
Yeah.
Of course.
The reactions are
Yeah.
very genuine.
Yeah.
The fears are very genuine.
Yeah.
And the issues are what everybody goes through.
Exactly.
What you experience in the class is
What will
super-
happen.
It's
Yeah.
very realistic of what you're going to have when you're going forward.
Yeah.
And if you can deal with those issues, and I like to think that when I started, it would have been very nice to have somebody I could bounce ideas off.
Exactly.
To say,
Yeah.
I've not seen this before, what do
Yeah.
I do? And without trying to make it harder or worse for the students, so that you can say, okay, maybe you can try this way.
Yeah.
And so that ability to have the co-teaching aspect, hopefully as well, helped you progress and see other ways of doing it that's not just what we'd covered in ITC or seeing fundamentals classes.
For sure, and I think that was really beneficial, and obviously I wanted you to do it because you had that experience of teaching all these other open water classes, and so it was, I guess, both reassuring to hear, oh, this is completely normal, of, you know, you're always looking for XYZ things that a student will do wrong because you've seen it so many. So then I was able to catch more and more very quickly. And I guess with a mock student, they may not necessarily do those common things. Or I think actually the panic is the main one, because nothing could have prepared me for the panic.
The look of horror on people's faces.
Yes, or the issues and those reactions and the speed at which they move. They're not faking it. And so it's about understanding and preparing for that. And I think you are a really good source of support, both to let me deal with it, but also say next time you can do this. Exactly. And also say it's normal. Yeah.
It's normal, but this is what you can do to kind of preempt it and to prevent it from getting to that scared part.
Yes, exactly, which I think again is the benefit, and I'm so glad I had these students who had all these types of problems that I needed to solve, not only with skills and communication and gear as well, but also that mindset.
And I think I'll add, like, you get a lot of comments about why is there the snorkeling session?
Oh yeah.
Like, what is the point of that? And for sure, if you have somebody who is super comfortable in the water, you can run through all of those skills in 10 minutes. Done, then we can move on to the scuba diving. But when you've got somebody who's a little bit more scared, uncertain of water, then it helps alleviate a lot of their concerns by doing it in a more familiar, slightly less scary situation to build up their confidence before we start progressing. So what was the benefit of having 2 real students as opposed to 1 for the IE?
I knew you were going to say this because I think you were the one that encouraged me to have 2 individuals. And so I did not come into this having any prior teaching experience from other agencies because I wanted to focus on GUE instructing. And so for, I guess, my level of capacity, I thought that it would quote be easier just having 1 student, but actually I was really glad I had 2 students because I then need to be really aware of how brief the briefings need to be to get through 2 lots of students, unlike this podcast. But also, you know, to have them as a team to really focus on each other when doing certain skills, and also the ability to compartmentalize 2 individuals as different problems was really beneficial, and so I think that was definitely the best decision all around as well.
It was good.
It was good.
Being able to split your brain between 2 people is a lot of task loading. And then the other thing that makes life more interesting is learning to teach in different environments. So warm water, cold water, wetsuits, dry suits. So you've had quite a lot of experience in teaching around the world. How has that benefited you for this IE?
I think as well understanding different, as you said, environments but different configurations and the impact of what one change can make to a person, both in their mindset, as in being uncomfortable and not focusing, but also how it impacts their stability as well. And I guess also the biggest thing that makes the difference is with open water, we're teaching in a single tank. And so it's actually, when I first started to prepare for this ITC, I did a lot of my own personal skill development, which meant a lot of dry suit and double tank. And so when I went back into a single tank, I was surprised at how uncomfy I felt and needed to relearn. And actually diving on a single tank, I find weighting wise, especially if you're wearing carbon fiber things and aluminium tanks and dry suit, it's super hard to get weighting correct or balanced, I would say, in a small individual. And it's about being confident in any configuration. And so the open water was really nice, is because we got to play with students waiting in that single tank, so they were comfy. And I actually, at the end of it, I felt way more comfy in a single tank than I did, because I was giving individuals weights, and so I had to learn how to balance myself being you know, in a carbon fiber backplate, because they had my steel backplates and dry suit and with spare weights as well. And so I feel don't underestimate the single tank and the way that you have to control yourself and students in both balance, weighting, and even skills. It was surprising how many individuals in the ITC just before this were a bit perturbed by single tank adapters, or the fact that you could change the positions of the bands on single tanks, or even
what's a valve drill?
There's a valve drill, yeah.
So I think a lot of people come into GUE, do doubles, and only ever dive doubles again, and then forget that singles exist.
Yeah, and so it's about being, I guess, our instructors need to be confident of all configurations as well. And so getting single tank dives is just as beneficial as your doubles as well, especially if you want to teach performance diver on single tanks, or for sure open water.
Basic fundamentals on single tanks.
Yeah, as well, for sure. Definitely so. It was very much worthwhile.
Can we pause there, because there's dolphins jumping? They've gone all the way along. And I was like,
Oh, it's over there! Yeah. There! Right there!
there's more?
There! Oh my god.
And out there? No,
Yes,
that's a
right
boy.
there. No, right there!
So Jen, what are the 3 main takeaways from your instructor journey?
Embrace the chaos, brief briefings, and never underestimate the mental or psychological side of diving as well.
And I think similarly, for when I'm teaching new instructors, it's going to be to ensure they've experienced the chaos with some sort of supervision before they go out on their own. The benefit of briefings in the water. And then to make sure people are properly prepared for single tank diving.
Yes, never underestimate that, for sure.
And the psychology of teaching new people.
Exactly. Excellent.
Jen, congratulations on becoming a GUE instructor.
Thank you. I'm so hyped. I'm ready.
Excellent. That's all we want.
Amazing. Thank you.